What's the question?
Accident, there were a few things that were actually stirring in my heart, and one of them was a book I was reading about Jim Elliot, and there's a quote from his book that's rather famous that was really hitting me, and it was, "He is no fool who gives up what he cannot keep to gain that which he cannot lose." So that, along with a song by Twyla Paris, was just calling me to a deeper place, and just asking God, you know, do I trust you? And here's the chorus, just to give you an idea. It says, "Do I trust you, Lord? Does the river flow? Do I trust you, Lord? Does the north wind blow? You can see my heart, you can read my mind, and you've got to know I would rather die than to lose my faith in the one I love. Do I trust you?" So,
Kathy and I, the night we were comparing our thigh size, which is really great, but I'd been studying 2 Samuel 24:24, which is I will not sacrifice to the Lord my God that which costs me nothing. And I remember thinking, nothing, I have it so easy. And what would that be? What did that look like? Kathy and I discussed that. And then we talked about Johnny Erickson, and would we be willing to give up our faculties, our ability to walk and such, if it had the impact that she's had on people? And we decided yes. We obviously didn't have a clue.
I was actually sitting in the back seat on that June day doing homework. I was taking class at ACU, and I was doing algebra. So I was sitting there doing the algebra, and I looked up and I saw this bus swerve, and then all the traffic came to a stop. So I sat there, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, and I got bored. And I thought, well, Kathy and the people in the car, I'm sure they're in this traffic too. Maybe it's some kind of construction. So I got out of Tony's car, and I was walking up, and I could tell right away that our car was somehow involved in the problem. Little did I know what happened.
Behind us was Ted and Christie, and as we were driving down I-20 in the passing lane, there was the Greyhound bus did a quick swerve off into the median, and immediately there was a car coming straight at us, driving the wrong way on the freeway. So I was able to quickly swerve out of the way and come to a stop quick enough to be able to see through my rearview mirror the accident where Christy and Ted hit head on to the car.
I remember everybody all of a sudden pulling into the right side of the lane where we were in the passing lane. Everybody was in the passing lane. All of a sudden started going into the right lane rather quickly. They think there was a passenger bus ahead of us. I remember them going over, and then I remember us quickly as Kathy saw the car. And then I remember Kathy's eyes looking in the rear view mirror for her sister. And I remember turning around and seeing Christy and Ted fly into the air.
I remember the whole thing, being in that Subaru and seeing the woman coming down the highway the wrong way. The terror that we thought just getting out of the way, and then the horror when the car hit Ted with Christy on the back of the motorcycle. It seemed just so unreal at the time.
I remember jumping out of the car and immediately just I remember just yelling as I ran down the freeway saying, this has to be a dream, this has to be a dream, it couldn't be real. And we got to the scene, all of us, and we're just trying to assess what was wrong and what needed to be done, and tried to talk to Christy. We kept talking.
So when I got up close, I could see things that I won't describe, but it came down to, I walked up to Ted first. Ted was being taken care of quite well by Good Samaritans, so I moved over to where Christy and Kathy was. And Kathy was sort of shielding Christy from seeing the lower half of her body, and Kathy was drawing her out, and Kathy took charge of the scene, and she wanted to bring order to chaos at that scene on that day.
In the case of the ambulance, because Ted was clearly worse off, the ambulance that was suited to go all the way to the Abilene took Ted, and we waited, and then a van came up, and we were put in the van, and it was kind of crazy because she was on a stretcher, but the stretcher had nothing to hold us in place. So when he took off, we were moving all over this empty van, and it just was a bit freaky. And the poor guy who was driving the ambulance at that point was in tears, saying, "I'm sorry, this is my first day." And I just remember thinking, it could not get worse at that point.
I walked in the emergency room, and the first thing I noticed is that it was pretty much quiet except for people in the corner praying. Usually in these kind of things where there's lots of trauma and carnage and the rest of the things that go on in an emergency room in a big accident is people are hysterical. They're screaming and yelling and crying and running around, and it's just utter confusion. When I walked in, there was a group of kids, like I said, over in the corner praying, and I thought, this is really amazing.
Back then we didn't have cell phones, but I had this little piece of paper with key important phone numbers of relatives, including Kathy's parents in Okinawa. So I grabbed that out of my wallet, and I asked for a telephone, and I made that mini long distance digit dial and got that unusual ring. I don't even know what time of day it was, but I got Ron on the phone, and I told him what a terrible, awful thing had happened, and suggested that he get to Abilene as quickly as possible.
Well, when we were in Okinawa when we first heard the news, and John called on the phone, John Skaggs, and called and said, Christy has been in an accident. And I said, okay, how bad? And he said, well, we don't know yet, but she may lose part of her foot. And at that point in time, I was dressed and ready to go to Korea. And Grandma, Judy, was already gone to do water aerobics. So then it got hectic right after that.
I looked at Christy on the gurney, and I did my typical ER prayer, God, it's me again, help. When I saw that she had lost her leg below the knee and her hip was pretty much avulsed out. And the other thing I noticed is she was jabbering like a jaybird. She was just just talking and talking and talking, which is a great thing in the sense that she still had some function neurologically and she had blood going to her brain. I went over and started working on Christy, and it took a while trying to get the bleeding stopped or slowed the best we could.
It was around between 33 and 36 hours from the time we got the news until the time we got to Abilene.
It was a long trip. Again, we still didn't know the severity. We just, we didn't. Which is a good thing. God was that's a big blessing. I can't imagine knowing the severity and trying to be traveling for 30 hours trying to get there.
But we got to Hendricks, and we first met the doctor that was working with Christy at the hospital, and at that point, he said, things don't look well. She has her insides are completely destroyed. She has no organs left. And so there's not much we can do. And I think we both said, except pray, and he said, no, that's not gonna help.
I remember I called my sister as soon as the doctor gave us the word, and I said, Rosalie, I've never prepared a funeral before. Would you come help me? And she got on the next plane
I recall being down in the chapel and Hendricks on my face. There's nothing I can do, God. What are you going to do? And I asked him to take me instead of her. And we've learned ever since that, you know, God has controlled this thing from day one.
Ever went through the emotional reality of what life was going to be like. It was just sort of a matter of, I got to figure out a way to get out of the hospital, get better, get out of the hospital. So when they sent me to the rehab hospital, now that was a whole other story. They stopped giving me drugs. So I had to face what life was going to be like. And I remember the first time I went out, I put some of my old clothes on, and though they were large because I had lost some weight in the hospital, they didn't fit right because of my body, and I was traumatized by that, and just trying to face that, you know, trying to figure out what in the world. And yeah, I spent a lot of time in Job trying to understand where the Lord was and why would he do this, and what had I done wrong. And he was very kind, you know. I couldn't find him during that time, but I knew he was there. And just little things, the Lord, you know, he had a sense of humor with me. He kept his sense of humor, or my sense of humor, you know, and little things like, you know, I am the vine, you are the branches. Every vine that bears good fruit, I prune so it will bear better fruit. And that was just sort of a little joke between me and the Lord, you know. He's pruned me so that I'd bear better fruit. And that's my prayer, is that fruit would be shown. And, you know, and the questions to the disciples asked Jesus, why was the man born blind? Was it because of his parents' sin? Was it because of sin in the womb? But no, so God could be glorified in his life. And so those are things that I cling to during those times.
My receptionist came back on a Friday afternoon, and we closed at like noon and about 1:30. And she said, you have one more patient to see. And I was just my typical whining and moaning, and, you know, I've worked so hard and I'm tired, and, you know. We closed an hour and a half ago, and she was like my mother, so she pointed her finger at me and shook it at me, and I said, yes, ma'am, and I asked what room she was in, or the patient was in, and she said she's not in a room, she's out in back in the carport, and I did my typical thing again. I don't make carport calls, you know, it's too late in the afternoon. She said, you will go out there. And I said, yes, ma'am, Kitty, and I went out back, and there was this young lady in a wheelchair, and she kind of beckoned to me to come hither, and I did. And she stood up and gave me a hug and said thank you. And that was the first contact I think I had with her after the accident. Last time I tried, Aunt Christie called me and told me that she lived in this little town in North Texas I'd probably never heard of. And I said, what was it? And she said, Little Elm, and I just started laughing. And she said, why are you laughing? I said, because I'm about 4 miles south of you. And, that's how I found Christie over the years. If God decides that, you know, this is going to happen, what do you want? And it was, I want somebody that is godly, a Christian. I don't want somebody that's religious. I want somebody that's spiritual. I want somebody that knows the Lord and knows them intimately. And I want somebody in my life that is very straightforward.
I mean, just straight up. I mean, he has been, my relationship with him has been nothing but an amazing and unexpected, wonderful, sweet gift. I wasn't expecting it. It just came, and he just overwhelmed me. And it just reminds me of God's faithfulness, because I didn't know what to expect, and I wasn't expecting it, and God knew, yet that's where my heart was. I wanted to be married, and I wanted to have a relationship like this, but it just never happened before. So just reminds me that God never forgets, even if I may stop asking.
Well, it started when she was assigned as a Connect companion at church, and I thought that was kind of ironic of all the people in church that could be doing that. And I thought, oh, thank you, God, this is kind of nice. I know this person. And we went to lunch a couple times, and we were eating pizza at the pizza place right across the street from the church. And I just realized it was kind of like God opened the menu and said, okay, so this is your godly lady that you're looking for, and this is the Christian lady that you're looking for, and this is the spiritual lady that you're looking for, and this is one that their yes is yes and their no is no. And it was just kind of like a veil lifted off of me, and I realized that this was more than just a Connect companion, and more than a pizza date.
Nobody in the world who could choreography this any better than God. I mean, it's, we couldn't have planned this in advance. If we had, we'd have screwed it up.
For Tim to come along when he did, for him to be amazing, for him to have a history and a knowledge, it's not like Christy has to explain to him what happened. He has more firsthand knowledge in many ways, maybe than she does, in terms of, he saw things and understood things right away. So for him to come into her life and for God to bring an orchestrated relationship is, it's a dream come true. I know that if it's that amazing to Kathy and me and everybody in the family, it's beyond comprehension to Christy. We've joked around repeatedly what a hallmark story this is.
It's kind of like beyond comprehension. I mean, like it's something that, I'm sure Christy more so than anybody, but we had all pretty much, it wasn't going to happen. And we were planning on how we were going to all, Mom and Dad and Christy are going to live together, move to Colorado. We've had all these, just kind of that whole side of getting married was sort of laid aside, and we didn't, it just figured that wasn't what the Lord had. And so it's incredible. Like just it came without anybody even expecting it. After years and years of praying, years and years of lamenting and desiring, she laid it down, and we all laid it down with her, and it's an amazing thing. Early on after the accident, I remember one of the things that was several people had shared with her that they prayed for her, that her latter days would be greater than her earlier days, just like in the book of Job, where the same thing happened to Job. Job went through all kinds of stuff, and then it said that his later days were greater than his early days.
We're all so excited because we've all sat by Christy, stood by Christy, and for my entire life, this has been something that she's been praying for. So for my entire life, this has been something that I have been praying for her. So it's like to know, to watch that prayer be answered is indescribable.
What's up, guys? Luke here. I just wanted to stop in and say that I'm super excited for Aunt Christie and Tim on the wedding. It's been phenomenal seeing God's handiwork in everything since the accident. I'm really excited to see how y'all grow in the Lord in marriage and through life.
Hey y'all, it's Jamie. So I just want to start off by saying, Christy, welcome to our family. We love you. I look forward to the time that we get to know you better. And Dad, the word says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing, and you have found a very good thing in Christy. The Lord has been so faithful. He has not just preserved, but he's also reserved and restored the things of your all's life and your hearts. And he's now joining you all together as one, that you will be that threefold cord that is not easily broken. So I love you both. I can't wait to see how this just flourishes in his glory. And
congratulations, Christy and Tim. It's been 30 years in the making, and I can't wait to celebrate with you this amazing day of just celebrations. First of all, Christy, I just want to say you have been content to be asleep with God's love until He so desired to awaken you for the love of someone else. And today's the day. I love you. Can't wait to celebrate with y'all.
I'm blown away at the goodness of God because I know it's something that she has wanted, to be married, and it just didn't seem like it was in the cards. And the fact that not only did He come along and sweep her off her feet, but the story of how God used this situation and glorified Himself and showed His faithfulness, grace, love, you name it, in all His glory. I'm so excited.
Knowing that she wanted this her whole life and knowing that it has come together in such a, just a fitting way, only God could do this type situation, it's really eye-opening for me as being the only single one left in my family, that there's hope, which is kind of an awkward way to put it, but I'm so overwhelmed with joy for Christy.
Hi, Christy and Tim. Congratulations on the marriage, and I'm so happy to be a part of this day and this family, and I'd like to welcome Tim to the family, so welcome to the family, Tim.
Hi, Aunt Christy and Tim. We love you so much. We're so excited for you both. And Aunt Christy, how lucky are you to be marrying a pickleball champion? We love you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Hi, Christy and Tim. We just want to say happy. We can't wait to celebrate with you this weekend. Do you want to, happy wedding day, yay. Say something, Ray.
Something, Ray. Congratulations. I'm real happy for the both of you. We will see you in Texas.
Say hi, Otis. Hello.